Are humans evolving? Fossil ancestors. Through DNA sequencing, we have found that humans and chimpanzees diverged approximately 5 to 6 million years ago. The first human trait believed to have evolved is bipedalism, the ability to walk upright due to the appearance of leg and pelvic bones that indicate an upright structure in organisms that still had small brain volumes. Australopithecus afarensis, widely known as Lucy, is an especially important find due to her femurs. They pointed inward toward each other, a trait of bipedal organisms. Lucy still had many ape-like features, and her small brain volume with more highly evolved legs showed that bipedalism evolved before our large brains. The Australopithecus lineage leads into the Homo lineage. The Homo lineage's hallmark trait is a brain larger than that of Australopithecus. With the increased brain size came the ability to use tools. Homo habilis is widely accepted as the first species to use tools. Homo habilis was not the only species from the Homo lineage alive at one time. Homo ergaster, Homo rudolfensis, and Homo erectus are all believed to have lived at the same time as Homo habilis, approximately 2.5 million years. It is known that Homo erectus is the species that migrated out of Africa and into Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. As they migrated to different areas of the world, they began to show different characteristics. One example mentioned by Coyne is the shovel-shaped incisor teeth seen in populations around China, whereas populations in different areas did not show this trait. Traits like this probably arose from natural selection due to different diets that are seen naturally in different parts of the world. Both Homo erectus and Homo neanderthalensis were replaced by Homo sapiens so quickly that there is no record of it in the fossil record. Although there is no definite explanation yet how this happened, Coyne put forth two hypotheses. One could be that Homo erectus and Homo neanderthalensis independently evolved into Homo sapiens, possibly because the species in different geographic areas experienced the same pressures from natural selection. Or another one could be that Homo sapiens left Africa and migrated into the locations of Homo erectus and Homo neanderthalensis and either killed them or outcompeted them for food. The process of evolution of humans from apes is thought to have been expedited by only one trait: walking onto legs. By walking onto legs, earlier species were able to expand their environments throughout Africa and beyond. By encountering new environments, they were exposed to different selective pressures that gave rise to new traits. Walking upright also allowed the spinal cord to attach to the skull from the bottom rather than from behind, which could have played an important in the enlargement of the brain volume. The start to skin. Humans started in Africa. Due to genetic variation, some of the earlier humans were born with less hair, causing natural selection to take place by creating sweat glands. Allowing to create an escape route for heat in our body also helped attract mates. Less hair meant more exposure to ultraviolet light from the sun. Since the early humans did not have hair to protect them, something else had to. Ultraviolet light and vitamin D. Melanin is what makes the skin pigmentation. It foliates from the harmful effects of the ultraviolet lights. The darker the skin, the more melanin it has. The lighter, then the less melanin is present. Our ancestor began to move out of Africa, migrating north and south of the equator. Vitamin D is made naturally in the body when ultraviolet from the sunlight hits our skin. Those who lived in areas that were more exposed to the sun obtained darker skin compared to those with lighter skin, so the sun can penetrate through. Ultraviolet light and vitamins such as vitamin D are evolutionary balancing acts that are due to the environment adaptation. Darker skin was an adaptation for UV protection, while pale skin was to obtain a richer vitamin D diet. Changes like these help us believe that the humans are still evolving, as change to the environment affect the way we live. Selection pressure. Today we have healthcare, food, heating, hygiene, and technology that we had adapted to our everyday lives in which help reduce death rates. These obstacles that we have overcome is referred to as selection pressures. Pressure to adapt in order to survive the environment and for reproduction. This drives natural selection and it is how we evolve. The human evolution have emerged in which the genome is scanned for evidence by selective pressure and looking at a few 100,000 specific sites where variation is common. In most cases, the source of selective pressure is unknown, but many genes that are associated with this adaptation to the environment emerges from the scans, confirming that the environment and the surroundings can be a powerful source. Genetic studies have shown that humans are evolving. They take a closer look at the genes that they undergo natural selection. The majority of the cataloged human variation is characterized by single base changes, referred to as a single nucleotide polymorphism. The location and frequency of these changes allows us to provide a list of regions in the human genome where genetic variation is common. If there is a pattern of reduction variation, it helps identify genes that may have been positively selected by natural selection. When a genetic variants help us improve our fitness, they are more likely to pass down into future generations. This variant gene brings nearby passengers. When they find these signatures in a population, it could be that natural selection is happening. They had came from a common ancestor and have inherited the genetic information. People have evolved to tolerate lactose in milk. Many adults aren't able to digest milk because they switched off the lactose that digests the sugar found in milk. There are more than 70% of European adults who can drink milk because they carry a regulatory change in the DNA that controls the expression of the gene that codes for the lactose. It is switched on. This genetic change happened between 5,000 and 10,000 years ago, the time milk producing animals, such as cows, were established in Europe. Being able to drink milk provided a strong evolutionary advantage in Europe. Possible explanation could be because milk may have prevented death from starvation when food was scarce. If you couldn't tolerate lactose, you would die, whereas those who could would survive. Strong selection pressure must have been in favor of people whose lactose gene remained switched on. In 2006, Sarah Tishkoff of the University of Maryland and colleagues tested 43 ethnic groups of East Africa and found three separate mutations, all different from the European one, that kept the lactose gene switched on in adults. One of the mutations found in Kenya and Tanzania may have arisen as 3,000 years ago. That lactase has evolved independently, an instance of convergence evolution. Natural selection has used different mutations available in Europe and East Africa populations to each develop lactose tolerance. In Africa, those who carried the mutations were able to leave more progeny and thus creating strong selective advantage over the others who did not have the lactose enzyme. Certain parts of our behavior may be genetically encoded through sort of environmental factors may affect the expression of genes. There may be elements of both behaviors that come from our evolutionary heritage, but these acts are largely matter of choice, not by genes. In conclusion, we believe humans are evolving, giving the examples that we talked about. Even in today's society, with all the given facts and evidence, people choose not to believe and ignore the evidence and deny that evolution doesn't exist. Many aren't mentally prepared to accept this. They can't accept the fact that we have evolved from animals. Evolution tells us where we came from, not where we can go. Even though evolution is purposeless, this doesn't mean our lives don't have a purpose. It is up to us whether through religious or secular thought to add meaning. Works cited.